I like to think about the music business as a 100 floor building. And when you're starting out, you're at the ground floor. And many people just think like, okay, how do I get to floor 100? You first need to get to the first floor and then the second floor and then the third floor. You're not just going to jump up to floor 50. If you want to eat an orange today, you should have probably planted an orange tree 10 years ago. And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with anything you want to do. You need to put in a lot of time and you need to do a lot of work. When I was a teacher at Abbey Road Institute and United Pop, a very, very common question was, how can I make a living from music? Students would tell me, like, sometimes on the first week, I want to be like you, I want to make a living from music. How can I do this? So if you're starting out in music, or if you're thinking about pursuing a career doing something you love, this video is definitely for you. Before I go into it, I'm not a YouTuber. I don't have too much time to make YouTube videos. So if you find this video useful, please like the video, and a sub to the channel would be highly appreciated. So with that out of the way, let me give you my 3 main tips on what I think you should do if you want to have a career doing something you love. So the first tip I have for you is be patient. Things take a lot of time. I like to think about the music business as a 100 floor building. And when you're starting out, you're at the ground floor. And many people just think like, okay, how do I get to floor 100? You first need to get to the first floor and then the second floor and then the third floor. You're not just going to jump up to floor 50. If you want to eat an orange today, you should have probably planted an orange tree 10 years ago. And it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with anything you want to do. You need to put in a lot of time and you need to do a lot of work. And this is also a point where I see many people give up along the way because things just take too much time and they don't feel like waiting until the point where money starts coming. But again, from my experience, time passes whether or not you use it. So why don't you use the time that you have right now to make a good life for yourself? Work hard, and at some point you'll look back and think like, wow, I would have been this age right now either way. I'm so happy that I put so much work and time into doing what I love, because now I am a lot more free. The second tip I have for you is make realistic goals. This is going back to the building. Don't just say, I want to be on floor 100. You could just say, all right, my goal is to be on the second floor. How do I get there? If I think about my first goal when I just graduated, my first goal was, I just want to pay my rent, and that's it with music. And at that time, in 2010 in Berlin, rent was cheap. And if anybody watching this was there in Berlin at that time when things were so affordable, please leave me a comment if you remember the good old times when life was a lot more affordable. So once I was able to achieve that, once I was able to cover my rent, I immediately thought like, okay, what's the next achievable goal? Let's now aim at also doing food shopping with the money I make from music. And then let's also pay for transportation. I always made small goals that I was able to achieve, because big success comes from achieving many small goals. The third tip I have for you is learn how to live simple. Learn how to not spend too much money and enjoy little things, because as I said, it's going to take a long time until you're able to make a living from what you do. We're right now in very difficult times. Right now, the economy is not doing very well. So make sure you enjoy small things, that you don't spend money on anything you don't need. This was something I noticed with some of my students. They would graduate and then take a loan to buy a lot of very expensive gear and build their dream studio. This is not sustainable. I remember that when COVID hit and everybody was suddenly stuck at home and nobody was able to go to music studios. Many big recording studios went out of business because they had to pay rent, they had a lot of expenses, and people were not coming. And that was the time that things sort of exploded for me, because I was working from home and I didn't have any problem doing what I do from home. And everybody was stuck at home making music. And suddenly a lot of work came my way, and I wasn't really losing any work because my work wasn't in an external place and it didn't depend on meeting other people. Everything sort of turned into online. So keep everything small. Make sure that everything you do is sustainable for the long run, because as I keep saying, it's a long-term game. Be very, very careful with money. This is also something that happened to me. I got used to living on so little money that by the time big amounts of money started coming my way, I didn't know what to do with them. So I didn't spend them, and things kept accumulating. And then one day I found myself with a chance to buy a pretty cheap apartment in Portugal and to renovate it. And I didn't even need to take a loan because I didn't spend money on things I didn't need. And that's how I bought my first house. So I hope you find this useful and this gives you a little bit of motivation to go for something you love, whether it's music, whether it's being a freelancer in any other type of career. And if this video was useful for you, please like it, and a sub to the channel would be highly appreciated.